Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. This week we're going to finish off our three-parter on yuan-ti gods and finish off with the greatest trick a deity has ever performed. With that out of the way, we are going to talk about Seth, and Zehir. So we talked about Seth in our last video. Seth is the reincarnation, rebirth aspect of Mercer. Now, Mercer was the deity that the yuan-ti and the Saruk had started worshipping after the world serpent had split. This was one of the aspects. Mercer, in and out of itself, has killed other gods. Mercer merged with the abyss. He is incredibly powerful. But again, Mercer, one of his domains is somnolence, which is kind of like a rest or sleep, kind of almost in a weird way like a narcoleptic kind of a thing, where they take long, drawn-out rests. Now, all the Saruk and the yuan-ti do suffer from this. The higher you get in age as a yuan-ti, the more you actually sleep. So, abominations who have lived like hundreds of years sleep months, sleep decades, sleep centuries at times. That is part of this. That's part of the worship of Mercer. Now, Seth, being the rebirth of that, Seth follows that same prominence. So Seth is prone to doing that. Now, Zehir, we're going to get to in a little bit. But just to kind of catch you up, the yuan-ti overthrew the Saruk, who created the yuan-ti, and they all worship the same gods. They were all scaly people. They're all like snakes and lizard folks and reptilian kind of hybrid creatures. So when the yuan-ti overthrew the Saruk and almost eradicated them, the Saruk left and they survived, and they tried to find a new home. Mercer had guided them under the leadership of Pilitith, who is a Saruk, into a new world. And when the Saruk landed in the world, there were reptilian creatures called the Kahastas. They are from the abyss, period. They are demons. The Saruk thought that they were theirs to command. It didn't work out. The Kahastas fought them and almost killed them off. After that, Pilitith found a way to communicate to Seth. And Seth had obliged and had helped them, because again, they're gods. They don't play favorites against the races that are warring with each other. They're all worshippers to those deities. After a time, Seth stopped answering the prayers of the Saruk and the yuan-ti at the same time. This happened because, again, they are entities that are part of somnolence. That's their domain. That's that kind of long-lasting sleep. That yuan-ti do outlandish things in order to prevent and revitalize and awaken these deities. So, Seth stops answering the prayers pretty much across the board for everyone. Real quick, I just want to pause the video and give a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you do for us is absolutely amazing. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description, as well as the link to our good friends at Critical Failures, who are part of a live stream game, and our World of Warcraft streaming channel on Twitch and YouTube. Check us out there. And with that out of the way, let's jump back into the video. When deities stop answering prayers, people stop giving them the divine energy that feeds them, that sustains them, that gives them that energy that keeps them within a domain of God. Now, before Seth sleeps, Pilitith goes out and finds him. Literally finds the deity in his home plane and begs to be his chosen. Now, being a chosen of a deity gives you like a level up, like a big power boost. It makes you stronger. It makes you live longer. It makes you smarter. It gives you their power, at least on some sort of like warlock pact kind of a circumstance. Like you're better than a pact because you're not like you're kind of bound to each other in a way. It's a very prominent thing. It doesn't happen very often, but it happened to Pilitith, who was the leader of the Saruk. Now, when Seth stopped answering prayers, Pilitith reached out to a certain deity named Set. Now, Set comes from the Mulhorandi pantheon. This is the kind of like the Egyptian gods. They just have a different name, whereas opposed to being Egyptian gods, they're just from Mulhorandi. Now, the Mulhorandi gods are very, very, very like exact to the Egyptian gods, with only a few variations in names or spellings or pronunciations. Now, Set is important because Set is a petty, evil, jealous deity. And he is vile to the core. Alright, so in the Mulhorandi history, there was a great god named Re, or would be Ra in that kind of a world. And he fought Grumsh, which is the Orcish god, the chief Orcish god. And Re would have survived had it not been for Set poisoning Re's wounds. In this regard, once he died, then Osiris became the one in power. And then Set kills Osiris to try and get the power of Re, but is then thwarted by Osiris' son Horus, which is kind of factual in the way that the Egyptian mythology goes. But he is true to that point. He kills Osiris, which is his brother. He tries to kill his father. And he is just vile. There's a couple of things about him as far as like the things you do in order to be a welcome member of the Church of Set. One of them is called a Test of Venom. It's a ceremony that was performed by anyone wishing to become a member of the clergy. And it involved that person walking among poisonous vipers or scorpions. They would do this in order to test their faith in Set, so that way Set can choose them to be one of their clergy or clerics and follow under his law. He also has something called the reconsecration, which is a ceremony that perverts existing tombs or crypts, transforming them into a shrine dedicated to the defiler of the dead, which is one of Set's names. Set's church is called the Fangs of Set. Obviously, there's a lot of themes here that work really well with the yuan-ti belief of snakes and reptilian entities. So, considering all this stuff is occurring simultaneously throughout the times of the yuan-ti, and them being kind of really close to each other geographically, the yuan-ti know of Set. After the spell plague, which happens throughout the history that we've covered already, they started calling Set Zehir and started worshipping Zehir. Now, Zehir to the yuan-ti is called the Great Serpent Master of Poisons and Shadows. His portfolio is darkness and poison, and his symbol is a snake in the shape of a dagger. Now, when the spell plague happens, it's a big thing that changes a lot of things. Anyway, we won't get too much into that, but Zehir becomes more prevalent. Because Dragonborn of Aberrant, that ended up being part of a different realm, which again we'll cover, believe that Zehir had part in Asgarat's death during the Dawn War. Those who believe that myth said that Zehir wanted to control the dragon domain that was Asgarat's portfolio and betrayed him to the primordials in order to obtain it. Again, this history of Set or Zehir killing other gods in order to take their domains and their portfolio is tracking throughout his history. So they do it to the god, the draconic god Asgarath. His plans ultimately failed when the god Bahamut and Tiamat rose up from the dragon god's corpse and claimed Asgarath's power over dragonkind. This again has to do with dragons. We will get there when we cover like Bahamut and Tiamat. But then later on, throughout Zehir's time, he began commanding one of the yuan-ti's houses, the Great Houses, and he planned to take over the Cholton Peninsula, which again is Chult, which is where Tomb of Annihilation takes place, and most of the yuan-ti end up being in that area. As this is occurring, he's growing in power. He's becoming more powerful and more prevalent. And again, this is how it connects. The Saruk know of this because he knows as a serpentine god, even though he himself looks like Anubis. Like, he has a jackal head, and that's just kind of the way his body is. That is how all of his priests dress, everything. They have that jackal-like head, just like Anubis, even though he's worshipped as this great serpent god. Now, when Seth stops answering the prayers of the Saruk, Pilatith reaches out to Zehir and tells him what's going on. Zehir, being Set, being jealous of other gods and powers and wanting domains, collectively, they come up with a plan. And with Set, Zehir, and Pilatith, who is bounded as the chosen of Seth and has that additional power, they create a spell that binds the god Seth. This spell works, and it absolutely shuts down Seth's ability to be conscious, to reach out, and to give visions to any of his followers. Now, this is the greatest trick a deity has ever performed. Now, Set, as he has bound Seth, I know it gets a little confusing, but as he's been bound, Set, or Zehir, starts assuming the mantle and the visage of Seth. So what this means tangibly is Zehir is now absorbing the divine energy that would have been fed to Seth. The yuan-ti are playing to a jackal-headed Mulhorandi god, and they have no idea. He has created the greatest impersonation ever and is now growing in power because he's getting divine energy from being Zehir. He's getting divine energy from being Set. He's getting divine energy from being Seth. He grows, and he's greedy, and he is ambitious. What he's doing is unprecedented. No other deity does this, and he's successful. The yuan-ti we're told that the yuan-ti occasionally get visions of Seth or Murshok thrashing and being trapped, and they're unable to understand what these dreams are, so they keep lashing out and doing these unspeakable horrible things in hopes to resurrect them, but all the while venerating the god that's imprisoned them. Like, that's the best part, because Murshok is now just a precursor to who Seth is, and Seth is the reincarnation of Murshok. Murshok's divine energies started dissipating from his worship, which is what's helping keep him in perpetual somnolence. And Seth, being the new yuan-ti god, the pinnacle of yuan-ti gods, as being the aspect of Murshok, is now trapped and falling victim to this perpetual somnolence that's forced upon him. This is awesome. This is what separates Set from all other deities. He won. He betrayed everyone. The Saruk have nothing left. They are barely in existence. Once Seth was bound, Pilatith, who was the leader of them, lost the blessings and being the chosen of Seth. So he lost all of his powers and he became mortal. And Set does not care about them. Because even if he does get venerated by them, he still has everything he wanted from them and does not need to do anything for the Saruk. The Saruk concocted this plan out of vengeance for not being heard, and Set has followed through and now become the head of a pantheon he never belonged to. Incredible. With that out of the way, we're going to bring this video to a close. Set wins, guys. He did it. He tricked an entire clergy of people. He tricked entire religions into believing he is a god that he is not. He has usurped gods. He has killed gods. He has taken power from them. And now he rules. And all of that trickles down because the yuan-ti now believe that they can assume and take the power of gods and grow in power enough to devour them and gain their strength. The yuan-ti have that kind of ambition instilled in them as they have been growing with the power and the methodology and teachings of Set, who is a petty, jealous, vile god. Perfect. All credits to Set. He is awesome. I'm a big fan of his, in all honesty, and I love the Egyptian mythologies. I think they're absolutely amazing. I think it's great. Everyone should dip into it a little bit and see what kind of awesome things are going on in there. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. A big thank you to our good friends at Critical Failures, and a big thank you to everyone who's been checking us out on our channel Veldcrest for our World of Warcraft stream. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.